Are easy jobs bad? No. Is simplifying jobs bad? Yes. Do you think these two statements are contradictory? Let's break it down. Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So I'm going to deal with the second of these questions first. Is simplifying existing jobs bad? I would argue significant change to a job is like pulling the rug out from under people, or in the worst case, stealing something precious from someone. You've taken something that a person has dedicated themselves to learn and probably liked, otherwise they wouldn't have played it. Perhaps the end result is something they can also enjoy, in the best case scenario, and makes the job more enjoyable to more people. But in the worst case, you make something even worse that no one likes. Even in the best case, you've removed something unique and liked, even if by a small group. I like New Summoner, and I played Old Summoner from later Realm Reborn through the end of Shadowbringers, and was halfway decent at it. The new one, I really think matches the class fantasy of a Final Fantasy Summoner more than the World of Warcraft Warlock at Home green collar that we had before, and I really do think having some simple jobs is good for the game. However, I have a great issue with removing things from the game, especially without replacing them. To this day, I feel like New Summoner should have been added as a separate job, or alternatively, the devs could have changed Old Summoner while also adding its playstyle in as a new job. But as it is, that playstyle that some part of the player base enjoyed has been lost from the game with no replacement. Pictomancer arguably replicated some parts of Old Summoner, but not enough to make people really happy, and at any rate, didn't come until 2+ years later. Even in an example where most people seem to accept the change without too much complaint, 6.3's Paladin change, there are many people who did like Old Paladin. The issue here is that it wasn't viable with the 2-minute meta's rising prevalence. The result was players tended to be more favorable to that change, but here again we have a case of, what if they had added a new job instead? New Paladin could have been added to the game as Templar or Mystic Knight while retaining Old Paladin's playstyle. I can see some cases where the devs might want to make the starting jobs easier, or at least having easier options there, such as having the easy Arcanist Summoner as an option alongside the more difficult Thaumaturge Black Mage. But as I pointed out with Summoner and Evoker, they could have solved this by adding a new job with the old job's mechanics, for those otherwise now jobless, homeless players. The point of all of this is, I do think some of the new job additions are good, and I do understand why the devs might want those to be starter jobs, necessitating changing them. And I also understand in some cases, like the 2-minute meta, why they might feel that some jobs are forced to be changed. But I also think removing things is always going to be controversial. The concept I've mentioned before from the Sword of Truth series is that of additive versus subtractive magic. Subtractive magic takes away, like being able to ungrow a beard, while additive magic adds to, like being able to magically accelerate growth of a beard. To me, MMOs should generally strive to add, not take away. Taking away alienates your players, while adding to generally doesn't, or doesn't as much. So now, to the first question. Are simple jobs good for the game? To this I can also add, are complex jobs good for the game? And my answer is yes, to both, and the spread in between them. As I've said before, MMOs are ultimately games with many players, and their lifeblood is having many people play them. This includes many types of people, from a casual middle-aged gamer dad with 3 kids and a full-time job just playing half an hour after work in the evening to relax, or a non-gamer boyfriend or girlfriend just wanting to spend time with their significant other, all the way to esports professional streamers that want to theorycraft and min-max everything, and of course everyone in between. While most games probably can't appeal to that entire spread, the point here is to try and offer lots of different things so that you have a good chance that most people will find at least something in the bunch that they enjoy. Old MMOs understood this. Setting aside they were all easy by today's standards, they tended to offer a respectable spread of difficulties and complexities even within their own era. In WoW's vanilla Molten Core raid era, for example, Frostmage's rotation largely consisted of spamming their Frostbolt button and occasionally debuffing a curse from a party member. Hunters largely auto-attacked since their damage otherwise could easily draw aggro, and limited boss debuff slots meant that their poison shots would override things that were more important. But conversely, warlocks existed that had dots to maintain, important debuffs to keep on the enemy to weaken their attacks and slow their casting speeds, and obviously their filler spells to use when they weren't doing any of that. I still remember the YouTube video song about "It's fun to be a hunter because my pet gets attack power," with the singer being a casual girlfriend of a more hardcore player who was trying to convince her to play WoW with him, but not on Hunter because "you a damn cheetah." But the memes and jokes aside, this system allowed for lots of different people to play together and experience the game together, which contributed to WoW's meteoric rise and success. In short, there was something for just about everyone. Remember, at the end of the day, an MMO isn't simply an esport or an exercise for the balances simulation analysis theory crafting. An MMO is a world populated by real-life human beings behind those keyboards, which means a good MMO has to attract and retain a lot of those real-life human beings of all skill levels, commitment levels, and so on. The best MMOs are those which have lots of things to do and varied class design, both in aesthetics and difficulty. To my way of thinking, the game needs jobs like Black Mage, and Old Summoner, and Old Paladin, and Old Dark Knight, and Old Scholar. But it also needs new jobs, like New Summoner, and White Mage, like Sage, and Warrior, and New Paladin. I think the trick is not to take away things while adding to them. Sometimes the devs feel they have to, due to how they're making the game. More mobile encounters are forcing Black Mage changes, the 2-minute meta forcing Paladin changes, and I think those are things to argue pros and cons about when discussing those changes and whether or not those are good for the game. But I also think we all, and the devs, should be minimizing these things as much as possible. Additive magic. Make the game more, not less. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a good day.